Let's start by asking the fundamental question: what is climate change actually? Do we experience more extreme events like heavy rain, hurricanes and flooding today? And is this the result of climate change? What's the difference between weather and climate? Well, we asked Dr. Paul Becker, Vice President of Germany's National Meteorological Service.
Weather and climate, these two terms are often used as synonyms. When it is unusually cold for several weeks or months, people easily tend to say, the scientists are wrong, the climate hasn't changed at all. But on the other hand, when people suffer from a hot summer's heat, the media assume this to be the proof for the changing climate. In such a condensed form, both conclusions are wrong. The rule of thumb is the weather is what we experience and feel from day to day, while the climate is a statistical construct. In more scientific words, the weather is a state of the atmosphere at a particular time and place as given by the interaction of different weather parameters. Weather parameters include, among many others, the temperature of the air, its humidity, and the type and amount of precipitation. Things are getting more abstract when we speak about the climate. Climate is a summary of the weather conditions experienced in a certain area over a long period of time. And long in this context means many years or even decades. The World Meteorological Organization, WMO, for example, uses reference periods which span over 30 years. So the difference between weather and climate is basically given by the different time spans. This is why when discussing climate issues, we need a different approach. We use means and averages as well as frequencies and return periods. What we as humans can actually perceive about the climate are not the statistics, but weather extremes. Weather extremes pose a direct threat to the people, and this is where often the question arises whether a particular extreme event is still within the normal range or not. When looking at the media's reports, one inevitably comes to the conclusion that the number of extreme weather events has increased. But are there really more extreme weather events? It can only be answered if, as mentioned before, we look at long-term measurements, that is, at means and averages as well as frequencies and return periods. We have systematic weather observations at our disposal that reach back to the end of the 19th century. These are complemented by climate projections into the future at least until 2100. This means that the information available to us covers a period of around 200 years. This is long enough for a time span to allow statements to be made about climate change. The analysis of our long-term data series shows us that the number of extreme events has indeed increased in many regions around the world. But this does not apply everywhere, nor does it concern all weather parameters. When we look at temperature, we can see a general increase in the mean temperatures, which is accompanied by an increase in the number of warm days, as opposed to a decreasing number of cold days. Other weather parameters, for example heavy precipitation events and droughts, require greater caution. Because of the rare occurrence of such events, we still lack sufficiently long time series, in particular series which show the events in relation to the large natural variations of the climate. However, because of our scientific knowledge about the climate, we expect that the number of these events will increase in many, but not all regions, as temperatures continue to rise.